Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
I want to start the show off here with a shout out to our producer, Jim Omahundro. Works hard behind the scenes, and then finally, it is all over. The wait has ended for Omo. His St. Louis Blues have made the Stanley Cup.
Is it like 48 years?
49, I believe, was on the play
okay.
call that I heard.
All right, that makes sense.
That's a long time.
So this is kind of like Rams, Patriots, even though it's the Blues, Bruins.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that. But, Ohms is...
Now the Bruins are
From
well
St.
rested, or they're going to be rusty.
trying to convince Omo to go to St. Louis for games 3 and 4.
It'd have been better this weekend since
Yeah, I
we're
know.
off on Friday and Monday. Now he's
You
got
know
the
what's crazy
baby.
about that, though?
Yeah,
The games don't start till Monday.
right.
So the Blues, they'll have a good 5 days off.
That's true.
Can the Bruins be too rested? That's
It's
the
like
question.
the NBA Finals doesn't begin until next Thursday. Television.
Well, they usually both end right around the 20th of June, it seems like, and we're still in May.
Everything is dictated by TV.
Well, got to pay the
I know,
bills. You
exactly.
see how much those TV contracts are?
Yeah.
Now, we don't need another Boston team to win a championship. I know the Celtics were hyped up this year, but the Pats, the Bruins won a few years ago. We know the Red Sox. So we just don't need that kid standing at a parade saying he's 15 years old now. He's been to 12 parades.
Hey, we'll jump on the Blues bandwagon.
right.
We'll give
All
we'll
right.
have almost some company on that bandwagon.
Let's do that then.
All right.
You see, Aeneas Williams has been a big fan of the Blues.
I did not see that.
Wearing a jersey, he was trying to. I don't think he was on ice. Maybe he was, but it looked like he wanted to try a slap shot. It looks like he was hitting a golf ball.
Yeah, he was at a rink, but
Okay.
boy, he looked bad swinging a stick.
They make it look so easy.
Now, Jimmy did had a good line. He said he'd be great on skates. Like if he was a defenseman, just backpedaling.
Oh yeah.
But it's on skates. It's a lot different.
That's hard to do.
Let's go Blues.
All right. Hey, let's take off on this Wednesday. Let you know what's ahead on the show. In addition to the St. Louis Blues making the Stanley Cup for the first time in a long, long time, we hear from defensive coordinator Vance Joseph. What's the plan now that Patrick Peterson is suspended for 6 games? DJ Humphries says, believe the hype on Kyler Murray. Wide receiver Kevin White joins the show. He's been given a fresh start here with the Cardinals. And, of course, your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2. Hashtag CardsCover2 using the number 2 to get involved in the show. We do that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here towards the end of the show. But first things first, the news of the day, and the Cardinals have a new player, added a veteran defensive lineman to the roster, Terrell McClain, 6'2", 302 pounds, 30-year-old vet. He signs a 1-year contract, and we've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks and even a couple of months when you look at that defensive line. But some much-needed depth to go along with a Corey Peters, a Rodney Gunter, Darius Philon, and Zach Allen. Don't forget about Michael Dogby and Vincent Valentine. Robert Kimdichie, remember, still coming off the ACL rehab, so not sure when he will be available. It will be mid-season, probably at the earliest, but keep our fingers crossed that we do see him maybe as early as October. But McClain spent last season with Atlanta, so he joins the Cardinals with a couple of familiar faces in Brooks Reed and Robert Alford, but he's been around the block. But again, depth, and that is what you're looking for this time of year.
Yeah, we've discussed this. When it comes to playing a 3-4, you don't need, last year they kept 9. They usually had 8 dressed on game day. So here, I think 7 make the roster. They have currently 10 defensive ends and then 5 D tackles. And a couple of these guys are going to back up a guy like Corey Peters. McClain will do that. And then also a guy named Miles Brown who wears number 72. He's built like a refrigerator. So you look at the outside backers right now, defensive end, Zach Allen, Michael Dogby, Robert Kimdichie, Darius Philon, and Emmanuel Turner. Now defensive tackle, nose tackle, Miles Bryan, a rookie, Rodney Gunter, McLean, Corey Peters, and Vincent Valentine. So curious to see how many make it, but that's the idea. You don't have to have as many because you're playing a 3-4 defense.
McLean has played for the Redskins, Cowboys, Texans, and Panthers over an 8-year career. With the Texans, he overlapped with Vance Joseph, who was the DB's coach in Houston. Had probably his best years when he was with the Dallas Cowboys from 2014-20 to 16. During those 3 seasons, 60 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. Another opportunity here for someone, and that is when we talk about General Manager Steve Keim and that front office, you're looking at the roster, who might be out there, who can improve this team at certain position groups, and defensive line was one of those groups that we targeted for a while now.
Yeah, and when you get to this point in the year, guys just kind of want to get into camp. I'm sure they've been working out maybe with the personal trainer, but there's nothing like, getting to the facility, going through and getting going through meetings and reps on the field. So, and really, these guys are basically getting minimum deals, and if they play and they get a chance to be active on game day, they can make more money. So you're not overspending for this, but you're adding some depth. And we know last year you have to have depth not only on both sides of the ball, but we know guys are dressing on game day just to play on teams. So I think they did a good job with it. Obviously, I think the key was re-signing Rodney Gunter. Obviously, signing a guy like Darius Philon, who's really in his prime. His snap count has gone up every year. And then drafting a guy like Zach Allen. So you kind of have flooded the position. But again, we'll find out who the top 7 guys are.
The corresponding roster move, wide receiver Malachi Dupre has been released. The Cardinals now with 11 wide receivers. That was a position that was maybe a little bit overstocked, if you will. So the Cardinals go from 12 to 11. More defensive talk here as we begin this Cardinals Cover 2 here on this Wednesday afternoon. We spent a lot of time on this show over the past week and a half. What the Cardinals do now with Patrick Peterson being gone for the first 6 games of the regular season. Who fills that void? Kingsbury was asked about it on Monday, and he gave his stock answer, "We'll see," which means one of 2 things. Either one, he doesn't know, which is fine because we're sitting here in May. He doesn't have to know until September. Or 2, he does know and just chooses not to tell us, which is, of course, his prerogative. And I'm completely okay with that. But there have been a lot of we'll sees, especially when offense. But here we're talking about, with the news of Peterson, okay, well, what do you do? That's the obvious question. People want answers, and we're going to probably have to wait and see.
Trust me, behind closed doors, they have a depth chart.
There's a plan.
And now there's going to be competition, though. So, but you have some guys in the mix. Obviously, Alford's going to be a starter. We talked about David Amerson, where he's got 61 starts. He's played in 74 games. You throw in a guy like Tremaine Brock, who's bounced around but had a nice little career with the Niners, played in Minnesota, played for Vance Joseph last year. He brings experience to the slot position. Then you got Dietrich Nichols, and we know Brandon Williams is more of a special teams player. So I think he wants to create competition. Then I didn't even mention Byron Murphy, who's you're going to hear from Vance Joseph on, this guy could be a Swiss Army knife. He could play inside, outside, maybe even a high safety. Josh Shaw is listed as a corner, but it looks like he's a safety. And I wonder if they're going to get a way to get it, Thompson on the field. Deontay Thompson on the field just because of a hard hitter, but I think he's going to have to make the team on special teams.
Yeah, ultimately, though, defensive coordinator Vance Joseph will be making that decision. He talked about the subject for the first time on the Coaches Chronicle podcast yesterday.
It has an impact. He's a great player, but we do have guys in the back end that played a bunch of ball. So I'm excited to watch Alfred and Tremaine Brock and David Amerson, who's all 3 are veteran corners. So obviously not having your best players, that's going to affect you in some way, And I mean, he's a top 5 or top 10 corner in this league. He's been a Pro Bowler for the last 7-8 years. So that makes a difference. But we have to move on. We're going to support Pat P, but we have 3 or 4 guys that's ready to play, including Murphy,
right,
who we drafted in the second round. So we're excited about him also.
Yeah, you've talked a lot about this defense this offseason, about winning on first downs, dictating defense, having those 2 pass rushers and 2 cover corners. Do you feel like you have to change anything schematically when looking at the guys you have on the roster, maybe moving Murphy inside, or how do you kind of look at this roster right now and see?
We don't. We're going to stick with our plan. We have a plan to dictate on first down, and that's obviously rushing 5 guys and playing man coverage. We have guys who are capable. We have great rushers. We have great cover corners. So the plan won't change. Obviously, every game plan you have is different. but our mindset won't change. We want to dictate on first, second down, and obviously win on third down.
A good follow-up question there by Lisa Matthews, because that was something that we did talk about when the news broke that, okay, this is what the Cardinals had intended to do this season defensively, but that was with the knowledge of Patrick Peterson manning one side of the field. He's not there for a third of the season. What do? Well, you heard Joseph say, nothing. It's just who is going to replace Peterson. Is it Robert Alford? We all expect that. And then, of course, what happens on the other side? He was, quote, very comfortable in that interview talking about Alford, Brock, and Emerson as far as who he has right now on the roster. So I don't see a move being made as of yet. Could happen maybe later this summer or training camp if someone doesn't pan out. But certainly they are, at least right now, going to go with, all right, top guy's gone, 2 becomes 1, 3 becomes 2, and then so on and so forth as far as who you get to fill those spots until Peterson is back week 7.
Yeah, I think he wants to build confidence on that defense, but I mean, are we going to see more man-to-man zone across the board? Are we going to see man-to-man press coverage? Because taking Patrick Peterson off this defense for 6 weeks is definitely going to affect it. Nothing against Alford. I think he could be a 1 in certain situations. He's going to have the opportunity. Emerson's a guy that's bounced around, but he does have the starts. I like his length at 6'1". But I do think, we know that they're going to rush 5 on first down. Obviously, they do a much better job stopping the run. But I just wonder, because you don't have Patrick out there where you say he takes the number 1 wide receiver, and then maybe you're confident that Alford can either check the number 2 guy. So, again, he's got to do what's best for the team based on the roster, but I just think we could see things a little bit different week in and week out based on opponents.
Well, and if you're able to get pressure on the quarterback,
yes,
and not just the sacks, but getting that quarterback to get rid of the ball a lot quicker than they want to, then it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters who your cornerbacks are, but they're not being asked to defend for 5, 6 snap counts. It's much quicker than that to where, okay, maybe you don't need someone as qualified as a Patrick Peterson to get the job done just for a short period of time.
Well, we talk about it all the time. We love sacks, and they're game changer, the strip, sack, fumble for a score, but the hurries, pressures, and knockdowns, what you want to do is just take the quarterback off his spot, whether it's Stafford, whether it's going to be Lamar Jackson, whether it's Cam Newton the first couple of weeks of the year, Russell Wilson, just take them off their spot. And then if you can plaster coverage in the secondary, all of a sudden maybe he's going to hold that ball a little bit longer. Then you get a hit on the quarterback. So the key is obviously have coverage, but also be able to rush the passer. And then obviously with Seattle, you want to stop the run.
Also during yesterday's conversation with Coach Joseph, he did mention that they are throwing everything at Byron Murphy, and that is playing nickel, some single safety, some cornerback. So whatever he is able to retain will determine on how much he plays. But keep an eye on where on the field sometime Murphy shows up. It just doesn't sound like right now it's going to be one designated spot.
And if teams try to spread the Cardinals out, if they have to go, teams go 4 wide, which you don't see a lot of, but it's possible. I mean, anytime you play the Rams, you don't know what you're going to get. The Chiefs have shown that look. Maybe Murphy's a guy you could play. Again, I think preferably you want to play him inside just because you don't want to get him exposed on the outside. But he does have the skill set where he can bounce around. So I like the idea that they're not just saying he's strictly a slot guy or a corner. There may be times when you drop Swearinger in the box because you want to get pressure, or in the run game, you want to get a guy that's going to stick his nose in the fan, where Murphy can maybe get some opportunity. So it's a good dilemma to have, considering how young he is and what a bright future he looks like he has going future.
Look,
in the future.
A lot of eyes are going to be on Kyler Murray, and deservedly so, but pay attention to the back end on that defense as far as one who's playing and who might be struggling a little bit and who's coming in off the bench to kind of shore that up, at least until Peterson is back for week 7.
Yeah, and I think they're comfortable once Patrick gets back, but I think right now, Emerson, we just haven't seen a lot of him. But again, he has the starts, he has the reps, and then Alford, to me, he could be a 1A on any football team. Just look at what we did in Atlanta, played through some injuries. So a little bit, obviously, there's a drop-off, how we can. But I think there's other ways you can do it if you're Vance Joseph when it comes to disguising defenses and kind of, I wouldn't say use duct tape, but find the best solution. Maybe it's a different packages until Patrick gets back, because once he gets back, everything will settle in defensively.
The Coaches Chronicle podcast airs every other Tuesday, 3 p.m. on Facebook with Lisa Matthews and Paul Calvisi. It's a great watch, and if you haven't seen it, especially this week's episode, go back to azcardinals.com/podcast to hear that interview with Coach Joseph. First time he has spoken since the news about Patrick Peterson. A couple of other notes here. The league today announced the locations of the 2021 and 2023 NFL drafts, Cleveland and Kansas City respectively. Next year is in Las Vegas, so it certainly sounds like that draft is going to be moved around. Different cities have seen what happened in Chicago, what happened in Nashville. They want to be a part of that. Philadelphia as well. So it'll be interesting to see maybe if Arizona becomes a city that wants to host the NFL draft. But 2020, 2021, and in 2023, we know where those drafts are going to be held. And the Cardinals today announced they've awarded a $250,000 grant to the Alhambra Elementary School District through the league's Foundation Grassroots program. A synthetic turf football field will be installed at Phoenix's Sevilla Elementary School. The existing grass field will be replaced. Goalposts, scoreboards, security fencing, bleachers, and lighting will also be added. So congratulations and props to the Cardinals, who continue to do great work in the community. And now they're asking you to get involved as well. In honor of its 100th season, the NFL is inviting fans to join the Cardinals, Cardinals players, and other teams in a volunteer initiative called Huddle for 100. The goal of the campaign is for NFL fans to donate 100 million minutes. That's right, 100 million minutes of time to help shape what our communities will look like for the next 100 years. Those fans that do donate will be entered for a chance to win a VIP experience at the Super Bowl in Miami and other great prizes. For more information and to get involved, go to azcardinals.com/Cardinals Huddle for 100.
There you go, and show your pride. You can post pictures, use the hashtag. Obviously, you want to get a chance to win some different prizes. I know we all want to go to the Super Bowl, but there's other great prizes. Send some videos in, so show your Cardinal pride. And for other NFL fans, show your pride for your favorite team. But obviously, we want Cardinal fans to win this, at least get some recognition and win some great prizes.
Absolutely, not only here in Arizona, but across the country, and we are big internationally as well.
That's true, man. You just see people taking pictures, post them on Instagram and Facebook, on Twitter, on game day. Well, have some fun in your backyard, throw the ball around, and wear your Cardinal gear.
Absolutely. It is a Wednesday edition of Cards Cover 2 as we come to you from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, broadcasting in our Bose QC35s. Go to Bose.com for more information. Get your hands on a set of these headphones that are just really, really, they're very good. Hey, I like them. What can I say?
I like them.
They block out all the outside noise. Just don't block out your voice.
No, it's yeah. Well, people got to listen to us talk. The thing is, though, when I leave here, I do miss them a little bit. I know I can pull out my wallet and purchase them.
Yeah, but
it's available online.
You think no one would notice if they're gone?
No, Jimmy would.
Okay,
because he's got to plug them in, make sure it's 100%. You know, all the talking you do.
That's wow.
Oh.
Whoa!
Zingo the strings.
Jeez.
Sorry, Al McCoy.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier the locations of the drafts in 2021 and 2023 being in Cleveland and Kansas City. You also mentioned that the draft next year is in Las Vegas. Now, I believe that Jarecki might have family up there. And
I do.
I think that Craig already put in
is that
his
right?
volunteer to cover that up there.
I used to work there.
Oh.
Spent 3 years in Las Vegas.
Were you a blackjack dealer?
No.
Radio?
No, radio, yeah.
Baccarat?
No.
What was it? What was the network called?
Sports Fan Radio Network.
Sports Fan. I remember that.
Now defunct.
Huh.
I got out just in time.
That happens.
So are you guys going to cover it up there then?
Well,
Let you cover
it's
it
kind of going to,
I don't know.
we don't think the Cardinals are going to have the first pick in the draft. I mean, hopefully
hope
it's
not.
somewhere around, maybe if you got to make the playoffs, maybe it's somewhere in the 20s, but it won't have the same sense when you don't have the first overall pick. Now, we are going to cover the draft, but I'd rather be here all 3 days.
Yeah.
Now, 2021 Los Angeles.
Not for the draft.
No?
No.
20
2022 hasn't been announced yet.
Okay, that's good.
It
Well,
was 2020 Las Vegas, 2021 Cleveland, 2023 Kansas City.
Well, okay. So right now, 22 is still available. Detroit
Yeah.
is in the running for that.
Okay.
But I think Los Angeles would probably tip the scales.
That's amazing. It's just become like the Super Bowl.
And they said now they only announced the finalists, which were LA and Detroit. They said 20 teams put in bids. And they're starting to show the numbers coming out of Nashville and Philadelphia and Chicago, because it was always in New York for the longest time. 600,000 fans. The restaurants were packed pretty much all day and all night. And it did have some rain, and just the economy itself between hotels and air flights coming in, it's definitely a generator when it comes to revenue in that certain city.
Well,
So
you saw the footage or
Yeah.
the shots
Yeah.
all the way down. I don't know if you guys ever been to Nashville, but
No.
Broadway is kind of the main drag where all the
Right.
the honky tonks are and all the kind of the tourist area, which is where they were. But there were people for as far as the eye could see, and our Grant Greeley from our broadcast department, along with Lisa Matthews and Kyle Odegaard, they brought back some great shots of Nashville. Did a fantastic job at least from watching from afar. But
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see how each city puts their own flavor into it, especially Vegas. Kansas City, I don't know what you do, have a whole bunch of barbecue or no, I don't know. But it was really cool to see Nashville step up, and New York got kind of boring.
I agree. Yeah, and the fact that they've
Keeps
made
it interesting.
Yes, and they've made a point to say we want this outdoors. So I don't know if that helps or hurts us because we have great weather. And again, I was just thinking where you put it. I know we had the stadium out there at State Farm Stadium, but they want it outdoors. They want the red carpet. And we'd have to sell, the valley. I mean, the skyline between, Scottsdale, downtown Phoenix, Sedona, the Grand Canyon. So there's a lot of opportunity, but you just wonder weather-wise would be fitting for the fan base, because a lot of fans, it's not just local fans. You're talking about fans that are traveling.
Yes.
Yes, their teams have top 5 picks, but also they can make a vacation out of it too.
Absolutely. So we'll keep an eye on that as far as the NFL draft. And, of course, the Super Bowl will be here in Arizona in a couple years. And knock on wood, perhaps the Cardinals will be making an appearance in a Super Bowl very, very soon. Of course, they believe they have their quarterback in Kyler Murray, the number 1 overall pick in the 2019 NFL draft. And when you talk about first impressions, well, Murray made himself quite an impression with his new teammates, his offensive linemen, and he did so not so much what he did on the field, but what he did off the field.
Dog, this is like the first weekend here. This dude brought us like 60 donuts, ham and cheese croissants and everything, like orange juice. He even got us juice, milk for the donuts. So you gotta love a kid like that. He gets it. The guy gets it, man. I'm telling you, he gets it.
Gotta feed the big dogs,
yeah,
right?
man, the dude gets it, man.
Of course, you turned it down because you're on a strict diet per the nutritionist, right?
I smelled them all. I smelled them. I got a good whiff of all of them. I took a bite out of a blueberry donut. I took a bite out of a croissant, and I was very pleased. I felt like I had ate a full one, you know what I mean? I drank a whole bottle of water after each one, so I felt like I was filled up off of it, you know what I mean? So, yeah, but the dude gets I'm just testing everything out. But the dude gets it, though, man. Those type of moves definitely went over a guy like me.
You want to make sure that you keep those 5 guys, and maybe even more than that, 7, 8, 9, however many it takes, but those guys that are tasked with protecting you and making sure you don't hit the ground, keep them happy, keep them well fed, obviously. And of course, maybe this is the start of a beautiful relationship, because we talk about quarterback and head coach and quarterback offensive coordinator. Don't forget about that quarterback offensive line relationship.
Yeah, and besides the rookies, I mean, he's walking into a locker room with a bunch of veteran players now. Since he got that huge signing bonus, and rightfully so when you're the picked first overall in the draft. I mean, imagine if he just walked around and gave each offense line $100 and said, hey, go out and buy lunch for yourself. It's not the same.
No.
The fact that he had to go to Dunkin' Donuts, okay, and gets, I think it was 10 or 12 dozen different donuts, and then obviously, sandwiches, croissants, cheese and sausage. Then he gets the juice and the milk. I mean, this guy, first impressions are huge.
Absolutely. And as Humphrey said, he gets it. I mean, as a quarterback, this is part of your job description.
And next year, I hope he had a couple of donuts. He did weigh at 211 when they gave him his physical, so he's good size right now. But next year he won't have to do this kind of stuff. They'll be doing it for him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and maybe even sooner than next year, depending on how well he plays on the field. Because the guy could be something that happens in his future.
Usually, like, physicians go out to dinner during the week just because they spend so much time together, but they're also get away from the facility where maybe they're talking about their families and other activities and hobbies. I just hope they don't try to stick them with the bill, because those guys, I was told they eat a ton of food. They also get a couple desserts, and they get doggy bags to take home, and I just think that's unfair.
No, it's not on Murray. That's going to be on Josh Miles and Lamont Gilliard.
Well,
Your two offensive line rookies.
But normally you like to invite the quarterback because he's going to pick up the bill.
Oh, okay.
But you're right. Usually it's
Yes.
positions only, and usually the young guys. But I hate to see him get that bill because it'd be like 70 or 80,000.
Yeah, probably not.
I mean, taking a doggy bag home, come on. You just got a nice steak and potatoes and asparagus. I don't know.
Well, they've only just kind of met one another,
Yeah.
so we'll see what happens. But 2 weeks for the veterans and rookies being together this week, the first week of Phase 3, offense and defense. But they were together a week prior, but that was Phase 2. But certainly it's early in the process as far as, one, getting to know one another and then kind of seeing what everyone does. But so far, so good, because Murray has certainly impressed a lot of those guys, including Justin Pugh.
We're still learning a lot about him. You know, young guy, comes in with a lot of enthusiasm. And then today, the first play we ran, it was a great, he kept that thing, kept rolling. So I'm coming from a system where we didn't have a running quarterback very much. Eli Manning didn't take off too much. Sam Bradford last year didn't take off too much. This is my first, go at it with a mobile quarterback. But have you seen him throw the ball? I think he's going to stay back there and sling that thing too. So he can do a lot of different things, and we're looking forward to that.
That's going to be an adjustment for these offensive linemen, because it is different, because you're asked to block knowing that 9 times out of 10 your quarterback is literally right behind you, maybe 5-7 yards deep. But with Murray, now all of a sudden, okay, as my guy that I'm supposed to protect, is he to my right? Is he to my left? Or is he completely, out of my view because he's downfield 10, 15 yards? So there is going to be some adjustment, especially for these veterans, because this is a veteran offensive line that hasn't had to deal with a mobile quarterback. As you heard Pugh say, I mean, Sam Bradford didn't do it. Eli Manning didn't do it. And now all of a sudden you've got someone who is very mobile behind you.
Yeah, I never want to say it's going to be easier, because you still got to block the guy in front of you. And, clearly got to win some one-on-one matchups, but they're not going to have to block for 5 to 7 seconds. And that's where Carson Palmer and Drew Stanton, even Gabbert, got hit, because you got to hold on to the ball, let the receivers, get their routes, and then hopefully they're open where you can throw it. So I wouldn't say it's easier, but I think having J.R. Sweezy here, who's blocked for Russell Wilson, they ran the ball effectively last year, led the league in rushing. They're one team that they can line up and run the ball. Obviously, Wilson can carry them. So I think Sweezy will help that. But you don't have to engage for 4 or 5 seconds. If the ball's coming out with less than 2.5, I think it's going to make it easier on those guys. And that means also David Johnson will get a chance to get through some holes, because last year, not a lot of creases, not a lot of lanes. He was getting tackled at his ankles. And Adrian Peterson always told me, if you see a running back get tackled behind the line of scrimmage, that's on the offensive line. I don't think we're going to see that much this year.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Sweezy and his background with Russell Wilson, because that certainly can play dividends as far as helping out his other offensive linemen in that room, as far as, okay, this is not that I'm comparing Wilson and Murray. They're going to be two different quarterbacks, but at least somewhat similar. It's like, okay, just this is what we did, or this is what I do, see if it works for you. And Humphreys talked about it, that he hasn't been with a mobile quarterback since high school. But certainly Humphreys, much like Pugh, very impressed early on with Kyler Murray.
I say believe the hype. That's the main thing that I can say is what he looks like on film, that is it. That was not a fluke. He didn't get drafted number 1 pick overall on accident, so believe the hype.
What's he like in the huddle?
Oh, calm, cool, and collected. The same guy that you see on TV when he's speaking, it's the same dude. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, stays right there in the middle. And that's all you can really want from a rookie quarterback, I mean, I think the guy's electric, the way that he moves with the ball in his hand. And then I think something that gets overlooked is his arm strength and how accurate he is and how quick he gets the ball out. I think that's something that people overlook, when you're dealing with a guy that can run like he can, but then you watch the guy make some of those throws and and some of the windows that he put it in, it's like, whoa, I forgot he can throw. Like, you know what I mean? That's how I felt the first day when I watched him. I was like, whoa, I forgot the kid can throw. Like, I forgot about that, you know, because he can move so good with the ball in his hand. So that was pretty impressive for me to see.
A lot of people get caught up in that because you think Kyler Murray and it's mobile quarterback. Well, what was the stat that you have as far as how many of his passes came?
5.
I'm not bad as far as
91%.
within the pocket,
Within the pocket.
That's all of a sudden kind of gets lost in the shuffle because he's going to scramble left or he's just going to tuck it and run. That wasn't the case at Oklahoma.
Well, I would think them being in the shotgun. Who knows if it's 80%, 90%? Who knows? We'll find out as the season progresses. But I think as an offensive lineman, depending on if it's a run or a pass, you're going to have your head on a swivel, and sometimes just on the side of your eye, you can maybe see just a body knowing, okay, I got to block an extra second or two. But the fact that he's going to be in the gun the majority of the time and he's going to try to get rid of it, again, if they go 3 or 4 wide, you're going to see those shallow crossing routes, and he's going to be able to get rid of the football. But you would think their head's going to have to be on a swivel, knowing where he's at and try to buy him some more time to extend it down the field.
Absolutely, because, where is he, 1, and then 2, you can't get caught making yourself down the field because all of a sudden it's an ineligible man downfield and that's a penalty, and all of a sudden whatever the play is, it gets blown dead and you got to come back.
And sometimes if you're engaged on a guy, you could see where his eyes are. Now, he may be looking for the other guy to make a play, but I just think if they can get rid of that ball quickly they have their head on a swivel, they could figure out how much more time they have to hold that block up or engage and get outside and block for somebody else.
Yeah, we don't know much still about this offense, but we do know one thing. You brought it up. It's the shotgun. Kingsbury brought it up during the league meetings earlier this offseason. They're going to be in the shotgun a lot of the time. How that affects this team and then what it means for opposing defenses. Here's Marcus Gilbert on that being an advantageous thing for the Cardinals.
Yeah, because we're going so fast, so we can see everything. We can see the field. It's more so on the defense. They're trying to get set, and most of the times they can't get set because we're going so fast. And he's made for this offense, and I think that we have to do a lot of catching up to make him feel comfortable and do our job as offensive line and stay out there and protect K1.
Yeah, the job number 1 of the offensive line to make sure that quarterback does not get hit. And I think that's part 1, it's the familiarity of the shotgun offense, and not only with Murray, but Cliff Kingsbury familiar with it from his days at Texas Tech. And you're going to see, and we've seen that kind of progress over the last several years around the NFL. More and more teams, it's not just 3rd and long. That was traditionally when you were in the shotgun. 3rd and long, 2nd and long. It's going to be 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd down. There might be an entire drive where they're in the shotgun.
Well, and he played with Roethlisberger. We know how big he is. He's tough to bring down. Go back to the Super Bowl. Dockett should have had 4 sacks in that game. He finished with 3. But Ben was a guy that, he'd have a couple guys draped on him and still be able to get rid of the ball. But there were times that he had to hold protection so Ben can throw it down the field, allow Antonio Brown or Smith-Schuster or some other receiver at the time, Martavius Bryant or a tight end to get open. So at least Gilbert has some experience with another mobile quarterback. A little bit different than Murray because Murray is more of a dual threat, and he gets to the outside, he's going to be very dangerous in the open field.
A lot of praise so far on what Kyler Murray can do or projects to do. The question is what our opposing defense is going to do to stop Murray and this Cardinals offense. Well, Vance Joseph doesn't have to worry about that, but he did talk about what it is like to kind of face and scheme up against a mobile quarterback like Kyler Murray, and he talked about that on the Coach's Chronicle podcast.
He can throw the ball. He's obviously a special talent. He's got rare foot speed. So as a defensive coordinator, playing against this guy, man coverage is going to be a problem because if you play man and everyone's back's turned, he takes off and runs, no one's accounted for him. It can be a 50, 60-yard gain. So he's going to force teams to play very vanilla and play certain types of defenses because if you do play man and he breaks out of the pocket, no one's accounted for him. That's a big play. Obviously, the zone read aspect is going to be tough too, but he is definitely a special athlete and a special passer to football.
And you wonder why the Cardinals made him the number 1 overall draft pick in 2019. As we continue here on Cardinals Cover 2 from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, broadcasting in our Bose QC35s. Go to Bose.com for more information. A reminder, if you ever miss a show, you can download as a podcast via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. And don't forget, all of your favorite Cardinals podcasts can be found at azcardinals.com/podcast. Programming notes, this is our last show of the week. We'll be back with you a week from today, next Wednesday. A little time off for the Memorial Day weekend holiday.
Yeah, and the OTAs continue next week and then the following week, and then you get to the mandatory minicamp, and next thing you know, we'll be right around June 13th. Let's not get to July yet. So,
and then you blink and it's training camp, and then you blink again, and we've got the preseason, and blink again, you got the regular season.
Yeah, I can't wait to say we're looking forward to hitting a guy in another uniform.
Let's continue talking about this Cardinals offense. Currently, there are 11 wide receivers on the roster. We know Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, they're going to make the team. Cardinals drafted 3 rookies, Andy Isabella, Keyshawn Johnson, and Hakeem Butler. That's 5, and if we think the Cardinals are going to keep 6, maybe stretch it to 7. That's not a lot of room for someone to kind of come in and make a name for themselves and state their case. Well, one of those names is Kevin White, former top 10 draft pick. He's battled injuries throughout his entire career. He's only played in a handful of games, 14 to be exact. But the Cardinals are intrigued not only because of his size, 6'3", but his speed. Ran a 4.35 at the Combine in 2015. Kingsbury, earlier this week, asked about White and what he brings to the table.
I've been really pleased with his work ethic. You know, I know people who coached him in college, very close with those guys, and they speak the world of him. That's what we've seen. Hardworking, focused, wants to be great. You know, has a lot to prove, obviously, and has a great skill set, that big and that fast. And so we're excited to see what he can be out here.
And he knows he has a lot to prove. In fact, you and I, MJ, had a chance to catch up with White yesterday after practice. Well, first impressions are important, and Kevin, by all accounts, you've made a great first impression here with the Cardinals. Coach recently was talking about your work ethic. He also mentioned fresh start. Is that kind of how you see this with the Cardinals?
Definitely. They're giving me the opportunity to come in here and compete and do it at a high level. And having these coaches and the players and Larry support and Coach Sullivan technique, it's been great so far. And I don't ever try to get outworked, or I just try to, do my job and work at a high level.
You mentioned Coach Sullivan. Let's talk about him because he's been around this game for a long, long time. Larry Fitzgerald speaks very, very highly of him. What have you learned on the field from him in just a short amount of time so far?
It's basically just having my technique down packed on every play. Just can't be a sometime-timer. Because if you have bad technique, then all the God-given talent, ability that I'm given is basically out of the works. And basically just try to teach us to use technique and then add the talent to it, and it should be easier for us. It's been hard to do because for the past years you create these bad habits and is not easily broken, but I think one day at a time, when season comes around, it'll be broken.
He's very meticulous. How some of these drills look like you guys are dancing out there. It's kind of funny. I see you guys laughing. I mean, I always told people, if you don't learn from Jerry Sullivan, that's on the player. Would you agree with that?
Yes, 100%. And I kind of regret not using him prior to. Since I was a rookie, Larry told me, man, work with Jerry Sullivan, and just never got around to it. And we tried 2 years ago and last year, and then he had to go take the job at LSU. So we just never got around and never worked out. But I'm fortunate and blessed enough to have him now, and having Coach Rye and Cliff and all these guys. I just feel like it's a perfect puzzle, and we're excited.
I remember meeting you a few years ago at Larry Fitzgerald's celebrity softball game, and I think you represented the late Eugene Parker at the time. When did you meet Larry, and how did you get the chance to know him?
So through Eugene Parker. Eugene loved Larry, and I think that the feelings was mutual, and he thought that Larry would be a really good mentor for me to have. And when I was training here at Exos, we all had a dinner. There was a whole bunch of us, and me and Larry talked for a long time and exchanged numbers, and we've been close ever since.
Now, when it comes to playing at West Virginia, you your second year there, you put up big numbers. Everyone's going to make reference to the air raid offense. Obviously, everything's new right now, so we'll figure out what you guys are going to do during the season. There's some more air raid, RPO concepts in this offense if you start looking at what you've done so far?
I think it's a mixture of both. It's not the same exact that we did at West Virginia. It's a lot more complex. They mix it up a lot, and I think it'll be good. I think we as players are excited, and we're just gonna try to continue to hammer at it every day and get it to perfection because we're far from that right now.
Standing with you here, we know you got the size, and we know what you ran at the combine way back when. You still have that 4.3 speed?
Yeah, give me 6 weeks to train for it, and I think I can still get it. But I think if I threaten the DBs like I know I can, you guys will be able to see the speed.
There's a lot of speed in that wide receivers room, a lot of rookies that were drafted. So how do you think the young versus the experience will kind of play out this season?
I think it'll be very good, a very good balance. Those guys are really good, and us being vets and around the game for a long time, adding silly techniques to it, it'll be a good mixture.
I know things so far in your NFL career haven't worked out to what you wanted. Mm-hmm. Not to harp on your first couple of seasons in the league, but what makes you think this now will be different?
I wouldn't say as far as injuries or health?
No, just as far as, staying healthy, and then just the production that people thought you had as a top 10 pick once upon a time, and now here you are, and given, as we said, a fresh start with the Cardinals.
Injuries is something that anyone can't predict or stop. It's a game of football, and for me, unfortunately, it happened 3 times in a row, so I was unable to showcase my skills the first 3 years. So this being a fresh start, new opportunity, new atmosphere, I'm excited, not really worried about injuries or things that happened in the past, but more of to fuel it, never, not to forget or get too complacent or comfortable, just because things may go well here or it may seem easier, but I just try to grind every day and just remember the naysayers and the doubters that don't think I can do it for whatever reason, whether it's due to injuries or whatever, but I just want to prove myself right and just play and block out the noise.
Do you ever wake up that morning going, why me? I mean, after the first time, you're like, okay, it happens. It's football. Second time, third time. Did you ever wake up saying, maybe this isn't for me, but you were never going to stop believing that you could get back and play at a high level?
Oh, yes, it was definitely days like that because I know I work really hard on and off the field, and I take care of my body, try to take care of my body the right way. And, talking to guys like Larry and, Demaryius Thomas and Alshon Jeffrey and those guys where, yes, you can work hard and train hard, but you also have to be mindful of what you put in your body as far as food. And that's another thing that I try to take to another level, and also, getting needled or stem. And those things is what I've done better with the past 2 years, and I'm just going to continue to try to do that. Before I used to think, why me and stuff like that, but now it put a good battery on my back.
I always tell people, if we knew when you're going to get hurt, we wouldn't play you in that, game,
sure.
right?
Yeah,
we'll just take you out.
Yeah, I would not be on the field if I knew.
All right, quickly here. X-receiver. This team's looking for an X-receiver. I know you're on a 1-year deal. It's a great opportunity. They bring in Hakeem Butler. You got Fitz. Do you have to learn all wide receiver positions, or are you focusing on just one?
Right now, I'm just focusing on one. But I'm pretty sure that everyone's going to get moved around after we get it down to perfection. And I'm excited for that. So whatever the coach is asking me, whether it's X, Y, Z, H, I'll be willing to do just like any other of the guys. One, it creates more opportunity for you to get the ball. 2, just being a smart football player.
Finally, it's early here, but after a few years in Chicago, what about Arizona and this that we're here standing under in the middle of May?
I love it. Palm trees, sunny, great weather, a lot better than Chicago, I'll tell you that, as far as weather. So I'm not complaining, but I hear that the summers are brutal, so I'm trying to prepare myself for that.
Yeah, it does get a little bit hot, but I'm sure it'll fit right in. But appreciate a couple of minutes, and best of luck this season.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Just a little bit windy yesterday after practice, if you couldn't tell. But hard not to root for Kevin White. One, given what he's been through, 3 straight seasons of injuries, shin, leg, and then his shoulder knocking him out. He's ended his season on IR, and that's unfortunate. But the Cardinals believe that perhaps they can find lightning in a bottle and find that receiver, or just forget outside receiver, just a receiver to complement Fitz, Kirk, and then, of course, the 3 rookies.
Yeah, low risk, high reward. I mean, he obviously was looking for a job, and maybe he fits what they're looking for based on what he did at West Virginia, even though there's going to be different concepts here. You know, he's put himself in the conversation, and, you know, right now they are looking for an receiver down the, you know, for the future, and he fits the profile. Obviously, Jerry Sullivan's been a wealth of knowledge for him, and hopefully everyone's learning something. Even, you know, Larry Fitzgerald. So, yeah, it's a case where, you know, low risk, and he wanted to come here. Obviously, you know, Larry probably did a little recruiting just because they did share the same agent. But for the simple fact is that he's going to have every opportunity to make this roster. And I think if we start looking at depth chart, the only thing I think the concern would be, and I think he would make it because of receiver, down the field target, 50-50 balls, I wonder if he plays on special teams. So we look at Fitz, Kirk could be involved in the return game as a punt returner. Then we throw in Isabella. I got to think because of his speed, he's going to play on teams. I don't know about Butler and Keyshawn Johnson, but I think Kevin White, and then I would put Trent Sherfield in there. Sherfield did play on teams. So if you're going to be dressed on game day, you got to do a little bit more than just catch the ball, but I think he's definitely turned heads.
Absolutely. Appreciate a couple of minutes of Kevin White's time after practice yesterday. And with that, how about we hear from the Bird Gang, what they're sounding off on this Wednesday. Your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2, using the number 2 to get involved in the show. We begin with Instagram, and this user at Johnny.Waiters wants to know, speaking of the wide receiver position, what is the future now for Chad Williams?
Good question. I think he's going to have to make the roster. He's another guy that plays on teams. You know, hopefully he's learned something from Jerry Sullivan, like I've maintained. I don't know if they're going to keep, 8. I think they're leaning more with 7, 3 tight ends. I guess you can try to slide him to the practice squad depending on how many games he played. But I would say right now he's going to have to turn some heads in training camp, including in off-season workouts.
All right, let's switch to the defensive side. User at Almeida.Frankie. Thoughts on how our defensive line is looking thus far?
I think with the latest additions, including today with McLean and bringing in Darius Philon and re-signing Rodney Gunter, and hopefully they can get something out of Ken Beachy. Corey Peters is steady Eddie there. I think Zach Allen's going to be a guy that's going to get a chance to play in the rotation. So compared to where it was maybe 6 to 8 weeks ago, much better now, and I still think they'll add to that now. Last year they played a 4-3, so they wanted to keep 9 defensive linemen. This year they're going to play a 3-4, so 6 will be active on game day. Wouldn't surprise me if one of those guys or end up on the practice squad.
All right, last question from Instagram, user at daily.joebuck. Who do you see taking over the special teams return game, both punt and kickoff?
It's a great question. I think it's going to be difficult to beat out Christian Kirk. Craig was on it early last year. Maybe going into the season, he was close to breaking one. Farrell Cooper can return kicks. We know T.J. Logan, see if they have a role for him. DJ Foster could be back there. So I think Kirk right now, I would say the leader in the clubhouse, just me connecting dots. And then I think it's wide open for that kick returner because it's going to have to be a guy that's either a DB, a wide receiver, or a running back. And if you're going to be active on game day, you're going to have to do more than just, touch the ball a few times.
I'd throw in Isabella as well.
Yeah, because of speed.
Yeah, and just to see how he would handle it. Just give him a chance and see where it ends up. All right, let's move to Twitter as the Bird Gang is sounding off here using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2. User at... I'll try to pronounce it. Moana Tapa. It's MWANAMATAPA. Do you think all 3 drafted receivers will be successful?
over time, it's not going to happen right away. I mean, I know people are looking at maybe these guys are going to put up 600 to 800 yards. I just don't see that. I think David Johnson, Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald, even a guy like Ricky Seals-Jones, I know they're happy. I think all three do something a little bit different. You look at Keyshawn Johnson, really good route runner in the open field. Hakeem Butler, he's got to become a better route runner, get off press coverage, but he's good on those 50-50 balls. You watch some of the highlights we've shown. He makes crazy catches and drops easy ones. And then Andy Isabella, I just hope we're not, backing him into a corner as a slot guy. He's got 4.3 speed, put him on the outside. So I think in due time, yes, this is the future for the Arizona Cardinals along with Kyler Murray.
We talked about this at the top of the show, but user Charles Isaacs 44 wants to know what's going to happen with Pat Peterson after his suspension is over.
Well, he's going to show up and he's going to come here with a chip on his shoulder. They need him. He won't be able to be at the facility. I'm sure he'll be working out. But for the most part, they just got to survive until he gets back. And it's not one of those cases he's going to have to win his job back. I mean, he's been a Pro Bowl player. He's been an All-Pro. He's been one of the best players on this team since he's been drafted. So I'm not saying they're going to hand it to him, but I think it's pretty obvious he'll get his starting position back when he returns.
And he'll keep himself in good shape during those 6
he usually
games.
has.
Last question from Twitter. User at MBS365 wants to know 2 things. One is, did MJ get the donuts?
Not
I'll
yet.
answer that question. No, he didn't.
At
least not
yet.
today.
I still got time.
All right, second question. Great question. After Nick Bosa has pulled a hamstring at 49ers practice, what precautions are taken that severe injuries don't happen in practice, although accidents do happen?
Yeah, it's football. I mean, a lot of this stuff is non-contact. You really can't go 11 on 11 with full pads. I mean, it's obviously hydration, making sure you're drinking a lot of water. Some guys get IVs after practice, making sure you're drinking Gatorade, you get electrolytes, and making sure you stretch. And after practice, get in the cold tub for a good 20, 40 minutes. Easy for me to say. But there's ways you could take care of your body, and rest and liquids really go a long way. So it happens. I think, the red flag will go up on Bosa because he had that core muscle surgery last year, but it's only May. I'm sure they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that he doesn't have any setbacks because they want to make sure he's ready for the season. But again, it's how you take care of your body away from the facility, not what you do when you get here, because you walk around here, there's Gatorade machines, there's water machines, there's a cafeteria, there's a cold tub, there's a hot tub. So when you're away from the facility, that's where you got to take care of your body.
Absolutely. Appreciate the Bird Gang sounding off here on this Wednesday. Your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2, using the number 2 to get involved in the show. Appreciate all the feedback and keep those questions coming. Getting back to the injury discussion, there are some injuries, yes, you can prevent, and then there are others that are they just happen, and you can't prevent them. As far as, as DJ Humphries was talking about earlier this week, when a guy 300 pounds falls on you and hurts your elbow, your leg, or whatever, you can't prevent that.
Well, and look, give you an example, Reuben Foster, they were in OTA, so again, no physical contact. Second play of the OTAs, he makes a move, and now they're not running north and south. Sometimes you got to go east and west, and he felt something pop in his knee, and now it looks like he tore his ACL and other ligament damage. You wonder about his career. But you also have to wonder, was there something going on prior to that where, yes, you can work out, lift weights, run north and south, but when you got to go east and west, you're asking your body to do something a little bit different, and he's probably done it a million times in his career. But in this case, something popped and snapped, and that's not good. I hate to see guys go down. And so you just got to be overcautious. But, again, once you step on that field, you're competing for a job, and so I think they don't think about it, but it can happen.
Yeah, knock on wood, the Cardinals stay healthy here
in
2019.
Team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got any big plans coming up?
Not really.
No?
Enjoy the weather.
Exactly. Yes.
It's going to be great. I told you I got the AC off, so I'll find something to do considering we got 4 days off.
Yeah. I'll see you next Wednesday.
I'll see you next Tuesday.
All right. Show next Wednesday.
Yes.
I guess, we do have to come in beforehand, don't we?
Well, unless you got more days off than I.
With that, we'll tell you that we appreciate everyone working behind the scenes here on Cards Cover 2. Behind the scenes, Tim Delaney, Jim Almohandro, Devin Henry, Jackson Sipes, Mike Jurecki, I'm Craig Grialou. Remember, next show, next Wednesday, following the Memorial Day weekend holiday. Until then, enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.